welcome back to another episode of In the Green Room with Aiden Keene. This is our final episode of 2025, and I'm thrilled to be joined by someone who has been behind the scenes of some of the coolest rock shows ever, and he's played with so many legends. He's a wonderful guitarist and musical director, and the backbone of many major touring productions. So I'm pleased to welcome Mr. Godfrey Townsend today to the show. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, sir. Yeah.
I have so many questions for you because there are just so many things that you've done. But going back to your early years, you've played so many amazing different styles of music. You've played with the Yardbirds and you play Eric Clapton music, and what was there one record or one concert early on in your life that made something click with you and you realized this is what I want to do?
My first the first two concerts I ever went to, and they were a year apart, was Led Zeppelin. I went to see Led Zeppelin in 1970.
Oh wow.
I went to see them again in 1971. And they were both definitely earth-shattering experiences for me. I had gotten the records for Christmas or whatever, and uh, just got turned on to them. And to be able to see them live in that way, um, it was a magical thing. Concerts and music are magic, and it was just a magical experience. And the second year that I went to see them, I just managed to get somehow or other, the local record store was selling two tickets for the show, for the concert at Madison Square Garden. And my girlfriend and I went in that record store a lot. We knew the people that ran the place, and she was such a Zeppelin fanatic, and so was I, that we just went in and said, "We want them. We want them. Can we have them? But we don't have the money right now. Can you hold them for us?" And it's like they said yes. So we just went around and just gathered up as much money as we can in whatever way we could, finding, cans and bottles on the street, you know, taking them in for the deposits and doing errands for neighbors of hers and stuff like that. And we got the money and we bought the tickets from them. They gave them to us, and they were face value at the time for orchestra seats was $7.50.
Wow.
For a pair of second row in the orchestra for Led Zeppelin at Madison Square Garden was $15.
It's
And
unbelievable. That's the fee. That's the fee for tickets today.
yes, that's the fee for tickets today. Exactly. And of course, as soon as Zeppelin came out, everybody just rushed the stage. They just got out of their seats and rushed the stage. People hanging off the front of the stage, watching the show. And at one point, there were so many people on the front of the stage that the front part of it kind of collapsed
Mm.
from all the weight. And monitors were rolling off into the crowd, and I just climbed up onto the stage and sat on a road case like
Wow.
15 feet away from Page, and I was like 15 years old, just sitting there watching the show from, this vantage point. So if that's not a memorable experience, it's mentioned in their book Hammer of the Gods,
Okay.
uh, and it talks about the stage collapsing and whatever and all this stuff. And I was on that stage after it collapsed, sitting there watching the rest of the show, making sure my girlfriend was okay. All right, you're all right over there. Okay, I'm gonna stay here and watch. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's
So yeah,
awesome.
and then we went to shows in high school, one after the other, and they were amazing shows. Triple Bill, Jethro Tull, Robin Trower, Rory Gallagher, all playing together at Shea Stadium. Deep Purple and Rory Gallagher, or Robin Trower and King Crimson, or just all these all these kind of shows that were just amazing shows to see at that time. I saw the Who a few times at that time. You know, just everyone that I listened to, we went to see Queen. I saw Queen open for Mott the Hoople
Wow.
at a place called the Uris Theater, which was a theater in Manhattan. Their first tour coming over here, opening for Mott the Hoople. You know,
That's
and then
crazy.
went to see them a half dozen times after that, in the early days before Bohemian Rhapsody and all that stuff, So it certainly colors, it paints a picture for you to grow up and aspire to things.
Absolutely. And were you
Yeah.
already playing at this point, or was this what
Oh
inspired you to
yeah.
play?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I was playing since I was nine,
Oh,
since I
okay.
was 9 years old. So I mean, the first real thing that really inspired me, if anything, was, the Beatles putting out a single for Paperback Writer and Rain. And I just remember looking at that picture sleeve of the 45 record sitting in my hallway in my apartment where I lived, just we used to play records in the hallway on this landing in the staircase. Me and my friends get together and play records on this little portable phonograph, and just staring at those pictures of them on that picture sleeve and just going, I want to be that when I grow up. I was already playing piano, taking piano lessons because my parents were operatic and classical, you know,
Right.
inspired. So that was already there. But once, the British invasion happened and all that, and AM radio, and we got our little transistor radios and we're listening to all the hit songs of the day, uh, that became my real passion.
Right.
So be able to work with all those guys now, like Gary Puckett and all those different people, um, is just amazing. Because it's like
Right.
I remember when I was listening to this, they were playing this music in Rockaway's Playland while we were on the roller coaster. This was coming out of the PA horns all over the amusement park. And now I'm playing with these guys.
How did that start for you? How did you get involved with playing, like with John Entwistle and Alan Parsons?
So, I just I at one point I got around a lot, playing places and then just started showing up at places like the China Club, which was a famous place in New York City, where celebrities would show up and just go to hang out and party and whatever, and then they would get up and jam with the band or whatever. And then they had an actual Wednesday night pro jam. That was for professional musicians that lived in the city or whoever was stopping by. And I would go and sit in on those. And, some nights you wouldn't get called up at all. And some nights they'd go, hey, come on up. And once you got up there, they'd go, oh, that sounded pretty good. Do you know this song too? Yeah, I know that one. Yeah, you know this one? Yeah, I know that. So then it was like, oh, this guy knows a lot of tunes. Um, and I wound up running the pro jam. So then it was my job on that Wednesday night when I went to run that pro jam that if anybody was in the audience of any notoriety or whatever, besides everybody else that came to jam, I'd have to get them up. And so people would show up, like Steve Lukather and Jason Bonham or Mick Jones from Foreigner or whatever, would be there in the audience, and it was my job to get them up to play a couple of songs with us.
Right.
So that was how I met a lot of people. And Entwistle was there one night after having played at Carnegie Hall, the Daltrey Sings Townsend show, when Daltrey was celebrating Pete Townsend's 50th birthday or something. And he had Michael Kamen in an orchestra, and he had John Entwistle there as a guest, and Linda Perry from Four Non Blondes, and all Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. I mean, these were all people that were on this show. And Entwistle came up to the China Club after that and sat in with everybody. So
Wow.
I played with, the first night I played with John Entwistle was on stage at the China Club in an impromptu jam, just shaking hands and going, hey, how are you? Come on up and let's play some stuff. And we played for 2 hours straight. And Eddie Vedder came up and sang a couple of Who songs with us. Whoever else was around that night. That was the same night with Steve Lukather and Jason Bonham being there.
Wow.
That was a pretty star-studded night of getting people up to jam on tunes.
That's awesome.
And about a year later, while I was already on another gig out in Laughlin, Entwistle was looking for me to start he was starting a solo band. And he said, well, I worked well with that guy because I was singing the stuff and playing guitar and, you know, so that's how I got into the Entwistle band. And from there, it was just like a stepping stone from one to the next, because he brought me on to a tour where Alan Parsons was on,
Yep.
and then Mark Farner was on, or Jack Bruce was on, or Chuck Negron, and you play with these people on these different tours, and then they go, hey, I need a band. I got some gigs for myself where I have to play a whole show. Would you guys learn my whole show? And we were happy to do that. So
So
yeah, I
cool.
mean, once you hit the click of things, then everybody knows your name, like in Cheers, and you just, you know, uh, hey, let's get that guy, and the advice that I always give my band members when we're on the road is, you know what? Also be that guy that is a cool guy to be on a tour bus with and to travel with and to get along with, or to, when there's a problem, you don't freak out. You just solve it, because the show. Must go on kind of thing.
Right.
And if you can actually play and sing as well, they're always going to remember you to get you on the gig. So that's my advice for all the young people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
the first time I ever saw you play was at the Happy Together tour, which is one of my favorite shows to go to in the summer. It's so incredible, and I consider myself lucky to have seen so many people. Like one of the first times I went was when Joey Molland was on the tour,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I am a lifelong Badfinger fan, so that was really cool. But
Yeah.
going into it for the first time, I did not know that it was the same band the whole night.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that must be, is it really difficult to have to put yourself in, six different groups in one night, or eight this year
Well,
or
you
next
have to
year?
change gears. You have to switch gears, right? Because I always like to listen to the records and get the stuff down as authentically as the record is possible.
Mhm.
Even if the band themselves, the artist themselves, has live tapes of their own bands, doing their stuff. And it's like I always tell my band members, go back and learn the records first. Before you listen to this, go learn the record first. Learn what those guys played on the records that sold millions. Uh, Whether they be Wrecking Crew guys or the real guys from the band or whatever, play what they played, and that'll always work out better for the audience. They're going to go, "Oh wow, he sounds just like his record." Joey Molland was one of them. I mean, we were fans. We
Yeah.
were fans. So when I first got to work with him, that was 30 years ago in 1995. I was on that gig when I got the call to play with John Entwistle. I was on the gig playing, backing up Joey in a similar kind of a format. It was six artists, Mitch Ryder, Spencer Davis, Merrily Rush, the guy from the Beau Brummels, and Joey Molland. Uh, and me and the band just backed them all up. It was a couple of guys from Beatlemania on Broadway that called me to do the gig because they were out there doing the gig, and they said we need a guitar player. I had met Mitch Weissman from Beatlemania. He was the first Paul McCartney from Beatlemania on Broadway, and he worked at the China Club, and that's how I met him back then. So just making these connections and people knowing what you're capable of doing, and when they need a guy, they're going to reach out to you. Yeah, Joey Molland has stayed at my house here a few times, and we know each other for 30 years.
Yeah.
So he was always one of my heroes, and of course, amazing to work with him and get to know him personally.
He seemed like such a happy guy too. I mean, when I saw him, he was smiling the whole time.
Yeah, yeah. It's probably a Liverpool thing.
Yeah.
Liverpool people are like that. They're just always right on, they're just on. They're just on.
And it was amazing this year too, because last year, when Joey was there, obviously we had Mark Volman there too, who we recently lost. And this year I noticed that you kind of, I don't want to say took his place, but you honored him in by singing those songs with Ron Dante in the show, and that was
I
really.
had to. It was the last minute thing.
Hmm.
I mean, I had spoken to him on the phone 2 weeks before the tour was going to start, and he sounded amazing. And then 2 days before the tour starts, I get a call saying Mark's not going to make it for the at least for the first leg. He's not going to be there.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, well, I had to take over for him a couple of other times before when he had health issues that took him, we had to send him home a couple of times, and I had to do it with Ron so that Ron's not up there by himself, come out front and be that other guy to him. It's nothing like Howard Kalen and Mark Volman of the Turtles
Right.
doing their act, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we're up there playing the music as best as we can to our best of our abilities, you know what I mean? And I would try to goof around a bit with Ron to kind of at least bring some of that into the show a little bit, uh, and I worked at Mark Volman actually asked me to play with the Turtles at one point. After working with him on Hippie Fest and Happy Together,
Mhm.
their guitar player was leaving to go do a bunch of other things, and so I said, yeah, sure. And I worked with them for 6 years in the Turtles. So I was a turtle longer than the Turtles were the Turtles, actually. And so was Ron Dante. Ron Dante was a turtle for 7 years. They
Yeah.
asked him to fill in for Howard.
Right. And it's such a big lineup this year. I saw 8 bands, but I noticed that it doesn't say the Turtles anymore. So what is that? If you can tell, if you can't say it yet, that's okay.
No,
But
no, 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 it's out there. Everybody knows it.
will the
That
Turtles still be honored this next year? Or
Yeah, so I mean, of course, the Turtles were the MCs and the Turtles were the headliners. So the name Happy Together, is a brand, and so one of my ideas was that everybody on the tour maybe does a cover of a Turtles tune that's in the same vein as their style,
right.
whatever song's closest to what they would kind of have done themselves maybe. And then at the end, everybody comes out and sings Happy Together, and there's your Happy Together tour. So it'll probably be something like that, but we will definitely, pay some kind of tribute to Mark and Howard,
Yeah.
even though Howard's still with us, or whatever, but to that because of that, this tour is what it is. The guys that brought us out here, you know, when Paul Cowsill does the finale uh, medley, when we do that finale medley, and we bring everybody back out to sing a little snippet of their song, when we get to the Turtles, Paul Cowsill says, and now the two guys that we're all here because of, blah blah blah, the Turtles,
Yeah.
and then we do Happy Together, again in the finale, and have everybody sing along like a big rock show. So
It makes me emotional every time I see it. I can't wait to see it next year with 8 bands this time. That's gonna be so cool.
yeah, well, one of them is going to be self-contained, the Fortunes.
Okay.
Uh, that's going to be the whole band coming out. So we're going to actually leave the stage and they're going to come out and do their set.
Okay.
And then we'll come back out after that. Um, and maybe that'll be when the intermission happens. And then we'll come back out and get set up. The thing that's good about having one band back everybody up is that you can move it on and off so quickly. You
Right.
don't have to wait for guys to arrange drums, plug in this and check out this amp and that. We're all there just waiting. And the girl Dorian, who is the stage manager, she just moves whatever mics are needed. If it's one person, one mic in the middle of the stage. If it's three-piece, three mics up front, she just does that quick. And when she's ready to go, she gives us the okay, and the guy does the Shadow Stevens announcement, and on they come.
Right.
But we're up there for the whole 2.5 hours usually. But now we'll get a 20-minute break or a 15-minute break, I should say, and then the intermission. Jason Sheff, who sang with Chicago for 30 years, the Fortunes, the Trogs, we'll back up the Trogs. The Fortunes will just be themselves, like I said, self-contained, but then you'll have the Association, the Cowsills, the Vogues, Gary Puckett, and Ron Dante will come back as the voice of the Archies,
Very
So
cool.
yeah.
I can't wait. I always look forward to it. The last thing I really want to ask you about, I know it's the big project these days for you, is your Eric Clapton show, which sounds
Yeah,
amazing. So
yeah.
could you tell us a bit about that?
So this is something that I had wanted to do for almost a decade before it actually came to fruition. You know, it was something that I wanted to do. I grew up learning how to play guitar, listening to Eric Clapton, learning every riff that I could of his, and sang a lot of the stuff. And my voice is a bit raspy and bluesy sounding, so people had commented to me that I kind of sound a little like Eric when I sing. And so I decided I'm going to try to do this thing, pay like a tribute to him. And uh, I put the show together somewhere in the early 2000s and started doing it at BB King's in 2002. And we ran for like 16 years uh, at BB King's until they closed in 2018. And then we brought it to a place called the Space at Westbury, which is on Long Island.
Mm.
And we did it for another 2 years there. And then the pandemic happened. And then we just brought it back again last year. So it's a bunch of different musicians that I've worked with over the years and some new ones that I've never worked with. But they're great, great musicians. Um, and we're rehearsing right now for the third show, since we've done the resurrected version, is going to be at the Sellersville Theater in Sellersville, PA, which I've played there with the Yardbirds last spring in March. So we'll be there on January 4th. It's a few days after New Year's, and hopefully we won't have any real blizzards and stuff like that conditions. But it's a Sunday night, 8 o'clock show. Um, you'll be out of there by 10 o'clock. And so it's a 2 hour long show with an intermission. Obviously, we do like two 45-minute sets, and it kind of goes from Eric Clapton's career, from the Yardbirds through Cream, through Blind Faith, through Derek and the Dominoes, and then some solo stuff and uh, whatever else. And it's been a biggie for many years. We sold out BB King's for many years doing this show. So we're hoping to get a nice hit. And I have a booking agent now that's booking it for me. And so we'll maybe get up to your area and around the tri-state area as well. We're in New York, so
Right.
who knows? Even some fly dates to the West Coast or down south or Florida or up to Canada. Who knows? So we're just trying to build it back.
Absolutely. I would love to see it. I would make a commute for it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it would be worth a little road trip. A
Yeah.
lot of people I know make road trips to go see concerts and stuff, and I think we do pretty good justice to the music, because it's not one of those look-alike things where
Right.
we're in costumes or whatever. It's just getting the music to sound like the way it would sound. Like if you were going to see Eric Clapton live, this is what it would sound like, and uh, try to portray the music in the spirit of the original stuff. So I think you'd enjoy it. I think you'd really enjoy it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I would love to see. I mean, Eric Clapton is obviously another one of my heroes. When I first started playing guitar, it was, I think the first song my high school band ever learned to play was Lay Down Sally, which it's an easy one, but it was fun to do.
Yeah. Well, we do that one in the show, and we do a medley, like a mosh, like we go right into another song from it, but I'll just keep that a surprise. But I mean, it's not one of his best songs or whatever, or where he
Right.
really tells out. As a matter of fact, it's actually, I think Albert Lee
Mm.
is soloing on the record. It's not
Oh,
Eric, it's Albert Lee. It's a country style
right.
kind of song. And I believe it's Albert Lee that's doing the solo, but it's one of his more popular songs that charted. So to start the show back out there on the road, we're trying to give him the most commercial version of it as possible.
Right.
Stuff that everybody knows. There's a couple of little deep cuts in there, like Peaches and Diesel, which is an instrumental from the 461 Ocean Boulevard or Slow Hand album. I think it's on the Slow Hand album.
Okay.
Um, it's one of my favorite songs to play. And I really believe in playing stuff that you love because the audience kind of gets that vibe. If you hate what you're playing and you're just phoning it in, it's not much entertainment, is it?
Right.
Anybody can just go home and listen to the record. But if you really love what you're playing, it's going to come through in the way you perform it, and the audience gets that vibe, and then they just pour it back on you with the energy after they applaud, and and that just feeds the whole cycle of what a live show is all about.
Absolutely.
So
It's the best feeling. I've mentioned it before on the podcast, but I have my own Elvis show out here in Massachusetts that I do, an Elvis tribute show, and been in a
really,
couple rock bands here and there. So yeah, it's a lot of
wow.
fun.
That Yeah, there's nothing like a live performance, is there? There's nothing like performing live. Uh, there's nothing quite like the feeling when it's going well. You're just,
Absolutely.
even if you're up there all night playing your heart out, and just one, two notes will make the whole thing. It just has to be the way those two notes have to just really feel a certain way, and you're just, well, that was worth the whole trip, kind of a thing.
Absolutely. Well, Godfrey, thank you so much for joining me
Yeah.
today. I've had a great time talking with you, and it's been a pleasure learning more for
Thank
sure.
you
And
for reaching out. Yeah, yeah, appreciate it.
yeah,
Appreciate it. Yeah.
I look forward to
So
see you on the road too.
will this air on anything in particular? Should I, want to send me the information, and I'll post it on my Facebook page or whatever, that how people can see it or whatever later on.
That'd be great. This goes on YouTube. It's also the audio will go on Spotify for anyone that listens on Spotify, and
Okay.
we'll just share it around and get this out there.
Excellent. All right.
And
Very
thank
cool.
you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
And to all of my listeners, I'll be back in 2026 with some more great guests on In the Green Room with Aiden Keene. But until then, be safe and God bless.